Part 2. In October 2017, I saw an article online, and after I saw the article online, I went to the website of the Centers for Disease Control. It was a report on numbers connected to rates of STDs that had been released, and it was an update for the year 2017. It covered the major areas, but there was this very significant matter that occurred when it came to rates of trichomonas among women. For some reason, they hadn't got the most recent numbers in on time. So the numbers that were in that report in October of 2017, which, mind you, was right after Hurricane Harvey, Hurricane Irma, and Hurricane Maria. The numbers that were in that report at that time were from years before, almost 10 years before. And it specifically said that trichomonas was most prevalent among African American women. African American women at 13.3%. And I was like, wow, that is a very, very specific metric. It's part of a metric that had impacted my life. See, in the way we do numbers in the United States, dates, March 13th is 313. But if you're going on the European system, they put the date first. So it would be 13-3, right? Just saying. And for whatever reason, the numbers for trichomonas didn't get there in time. Shortly after that, there was another report released from the Census Bureau that discussed demographic breakdown by income. And it was very intense because there was inherent within it what I call the Texas twist and turn, or the Texas turn and twist. It's kind of like a corkscrew punch. You hit, but right as you hit, you twist it a couple of degrees, 90 degrees. I found out about this when I was first in Chicago. Something had happened within the legal sector with lawyers and judges that added this kind of twist where things that you could directly engage, all of a sudden you hit, but then you had to twist a certain amount to find what you were really looking for. I didn't get it until I got to Texas. And I'm reading this report from the Census Bureau later in October of 2017. And there was very specific metrics associated with the demographic groups, but it was understood that there was a twist, as if they were rotating demographics. And so the numbers and the percentages for one demographic were supposed to go to another demographic, and then that demographic was supposed to go to another demographic. And it was that astounding to me. It was that apparent. And I was like, oh my goodness. Not only are these metrics here exactly the metrics that I've been trying to report as part of a pattern of racketeering activity, that also, by the way, kept showing up in data released by the city of Houston and Harris County concerning the impact of the hurricane. Things like number of inches of water, number of houses or percentage of houses in a particular area. The metrics were that precise. But I'm reading this, and the metrics were also as precise as they were in that publication, in the Houston Chronicle, except I could see the twist and turn. And I said, this is set for later. They're reporting these metrics now. There's certain implications, but they're going to twist it. They're going to flip the demographic experience indicators. So the implications for one demographic were to be flipped to the next demographic. And sure enough, in the year of 2018, that's exactly what happened. Now, I'm not going to explain the specific pattern and the implications, but the implications were that those numbers, those old numbers for the majority experience of trichomonas among African American women were not supposed to remain among African American women. And trichomonas apparently has a very specific derivative implication that didn't reveal itself until a short time later. The Centers for Disease Control released information on an app they had available for cell phones, including iPhones, concerning STDs. Who wants an app from the CDC about STDs that you can buy at the Google store? Which brings me to my 83. Somebody else is 83, by the way. See, there were 83 already existed before I came around, but somebody didn't pay for that 83. And so 83 pages were put into a document that was posted on the Nuclear Regulatory Commission site, dated for February 28th, 2017, which was the same month that the Environmental Protection Agency released its protective action guides about exposure to a radiological incident that I believe are completely unsafe and should never have been allowed to be published as an official publication or an official standard for the Environmental Protection Agency. But that I also understand was a follow-up to the year before, when behavioral science teams were dispersed to Flint, Michigan, in order to assess how people impacted by the pollution in the water system would respond to various efforts to try to organize them into receiving services, rather than implementing the logistical needs necessary to actually replace the pipes, despite the fact that they had the plumbers there. This is called Review of Human Factors, Research in Non-Destructive Examination. I've read through it. It basically describes how you can apply PSYOPs to test the responses of inspectors of industrial materials in order to assess if that impacts the results of their inspections. So you lean on them. Maybe you ping them. Maybe you torment them with electronic weapons. Maybe you kidnap them and put them in the hospital for 10 days and try to deceive people into believing they have a mental illness. Maybe you actually physically torture them, their genitals, their kidneys. Maybe you take out a member of their family and then they report for their inspection. Yeah, don't worry about that. Yeah, that's been going on for a long time. Yeah, you know, we just don't have the money in the budget for that. Some of the people I went to school with were African Americans that had worked in the industrial sector for a considerable amount of time. But they, like me, before Hurricane Harvey hit, showed up for a job interview. And afterward, all of us were told to resubmit our resumes because there was facilities damage. This was before they busted Farmington University. But it's not dissimilar. Not one so-called activist or member of any political affiliation or interest group in this country has said anything about that. And the American Society for Non-Destructive Testing just released updated standards for 2020 concerning testing of personnel at non-destructive testing training institutes that are completely unacceptable. It is basically a standard codification of massive exploitation. Nobody said anything about it. They have so degraded the actual standards for industrial inspection that if you're actually qualified to do it and you just don't want to prostitute yourself as part of the way they've manipulated what you can do with non-destructive testing into torturing people in the processes of biophysiological enhancements to be made commercially sexually accessible, then you're expected to give it away for free while somebody harvests you through derivative processes. And are they going to call it, what are they going to call it? I'm sorry, human factors research? Behavioral sciences? We're not poor. You're criminals. It's pretty simple. And we've kind of come to a head. Why can I not change the picture on my LinkedIn file? Why can I not get access to the one I had before? Why do you still have back-end coding in my Gmail account that electronically tortures me and is based on pension fraud that masquerades as a Homeland Security program concerning countering extremist violence? I'm sorry, violent extremism. And why do you think you can be an activist trying to challenge the Department of Homeland Security and not call out electronic sexual abuse of people for your pension scheme? This has been going on for years. It's really that direct. It's really the bottom line. We are in a situation in this country where our facilities actually need an overhaul. We need to deal with our water infrastructure. We need to deal with our transportation infrastructure. We have buildings that should already have undergone an overhaul. We have necessary security needs that may involve kinds of electronic technologies. But what we don't need is constant saturation with somebody else's branding that takes everything we say and do and derivates it into somebody's crypto commerce and tries to compel us to see to legitimizing their illicit activities and their illicit economy while they pretend like they don't know what the hell is going on. We don't need that. And to be honest with you, you don't want your bridges built. You don't want your hospitals built. You don't want your homes built by people that do. Because if you're in your home right now, chances are, if you let those people build it, you're not getting paid, are you? Stop race baiting this. This is not about the color of somebody's skin, it's about the content of their character and a significant history of mischaracterization.